Election Day in Israel marks the start of the hard work to form a government. Since the first parliamentary election in 1949, no party or group of parties running under one banner has won a 61-seat majority in the 120-seat Knesset. The closest was the Alignment, a coalition of left-of-center parties that included Mapai, the dominant party in Israel's first 2 decades. Led by Prime Minister Golda Meir, the party won 56 seats in 1969 by riding a wave of emotion after the June 1967 war. The Prime Minister must have a Knesset majority to govern, and so must combine parties into a coalition representing at least 61 seats. After the election, the President of Israel meets with the leaders of all the parties that have won Knesset seats and asks them who they believe will have the best chance to create a majority coalition. Within a week, the President picks one party leader to try to form a coalition and thus become Prime Minister. Deciding which person has the best chance to put together a government is one of the most important responsibilities of the Israeli President. That person has 4 weeks to form a 61-plus seat coalition and can receive a 2-week extension. The coalition negotiations involve promises to support certain policies and offers of particular Knesset committee chairs or cabinet posts. They also must balance conflicting party priorities and personal rivalries. For example, some secular and religious parties won't serve in the same coalition, and some Arab and Jewish nationalist parties won't work together. If the selected leader fails to form a coalition, the president gives another party leader 4 weeks to try. If that effort also fails, the president can request a new election, usually in 60 to 90 days. Twice in the first 25 Knesset elections, in April and September 2019, no one could form a coalition, and Israelis had to vote for the third time in 11 months to get a government. That government proved unstable, and Israelis returned to the polls after only a year. Unlike in the United States, where elections are held on a fixed schedule, the Knesset's tenure is uncertain. Members are elected to 4-year terms, but if the governing coalition fails to maintain a majority, early elections are called. This happens automatically if the Knesset fails to pass the annual budget, but it also can happen if the government loses majority support and at least 61 members vote to dissolve the Knesset. The Knesset also can vote to dissolve and hold an early election if the Prime Minister sees an opportunity to build a bigger coalition because of a shift in public opinion. The painstakingly crafted coalition agreements can be fragile. A party might quit or be kicked out over policy or PR disputes. Sometimes the coalition is big enough to maintain a majority even after a party joins the opposition. Other times, a party that was in the opposition enters the government and maintains a majority. The first person the president chooses to form a coalition is usually, but not always, the leader of the party that won the most Knesset seats. 3 times after the first 25 Knesset elections, in 1996, 2009, and 2021, the largest party wasn't part of the governing coalition. 3 other times, in 1984, 2020, and 2021, the leaders of 2 parties created a coalition with an agreement to rotate the premiership. It worked in 1984, when Shimon Peres of the Alignment served as prime minister for 2 years, then gave way to Yitzhak Shamir of Likud. But the 2020 government, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, fell before Benny Gantz got his turn. Yair Lapid did get his turn after Naftali Bennett went first in 2021, but only as a caretaker for a half year after their coalition cracked. The power of minority parties is both a bug and a feature of the Israeli system. Unlike in the United States, the president in Israel does not lead the government and so doesn't check the power of the Knesset and prime minister. And unlike in the U.S. and most parliamentary democracies, including Britain and Canada, Israel doesn't have 2 chambers in the legislature to provide balance. So, aside from Supreme Court intervention, the main check on the prime minister's party and policies are all the other parties in the Knesset. The prime minister needs to keep coalition partners happy. As a result, smaller parties wield disproportionate power in their areas of special interest. A prime example is the religious party's ability to block legislation regarding yeshiva students' military service, an issue that has vexed governments for more than a quarter century. The very first Knesset served just over 2 years, but 7 of the next 8 lasted 4 years. Over 30 years starting in 1996, only 3 of 12 Knessets held office for a full 4 years. Still, the 25th, amid protests over judicial changes and Israel's longest war, stayed for the full term.